In a country where justice often turns a blind eye to color, one woman walked into a courthouse expecting to review cases and walked out having exposed an entire system. Judge Sophia Brooks thought she'd seen everything in her 25 years on the bench until the day a racist police officer mistook her for a criminal and humiliated her in front of the very courthouse where she served. What happened next didn't just change her life. It shook the foundation of Mississippi's justice system and reminded the world that sometimes justice doesn't stay silent. Sophia is 51 years old, though people often guess younger. Her hair, pulled back in a simple bun, shows only hints of gray at the temples. She wears minimal makeup. She never saw the point of pretense. Her mother used to say, "Sophia, you could at least try to look like you care about appearances." And Sophia would respond the same way every time. "Mama, I care about competence." Competence got her through law school. Competence got her onto the federal bench at 38, one of the youngest appointments in Mississippi history. Competence. And an iron will that her professors at Harvard mistook for coldness until they realized it was simply focus. She was born in Biloxi, the daughter of a high school teacher and a postal worker. Her parents saved every penny to send her to good schools, better schools, schools where she was often the only black girl in the classroom. She learned early to speak clearly, to never give anyone a reason to dismiss her. She learned to be twice as prepared, 3 times as polished. She learned that excellence wasn't optional. It was survival. At Harvard Law, her classmates partied while she studied. They networked at cocktail parties while she stayed in the library until midnight. When they graduated, many went to prestigious firms in New York and Boston. Sophia came home to Mississippi. "Why?" her study group asked her, genuinely confused. "You could go anywhere." "That's exactly why I'm going home," she'd said. "Because I can." She became a prosecutor first. Civil rights cases, police misconduct, hate crimes. The work no one else wanted because it was messy and political and made powerful people uncomfortable. She built her reputation one case at a time, one conviction at a time. Fair but fierce. Meticulous. Unshakable. When President Obama nominated her to the federal bench at 38, there was pushback. Too young, they said. Too aggressive. One senator called her overly idealistic about racial justice. She sat through her confirmation hearing with perfect posture and answered every question with calm precision. She was confirmed 67 to 31. That was 13 years ago. 23 years total since she passed the bar. In that time, she's presided over hundreds of cases. She's sent corrupt politicians to prison. She's protected voting rights. She's ruled against corporations and for communities. And she's done it all with the same quiet intensity she brought to Harvard. The belief that the law, applied correctly, can actually mean something. Her colleagues call her the Iron Judge, though never to her face. They mean it as a compliment. Sophia takes it as a simple statement of fact. But this morning, as she turns onto Capitol Street, Sophia carries a secret that weighs heavier than any case file. For 6 months, she's been working with the FBI. It started with a phone call last March. Special Agent Dennis Kowalski from the Civil Rights Division, calling to ask if she'd be willing to consult on an investigation. Patterns of abuse in local law enforcement, racial profiling, excessive force, officers with long histories of complaints that somehow never led to consequences. "We need someone who knows the system from the inside," Kowalski had said. "Someone who understands how these cases get buried." Sophia knew. She'd been watching happen for years. Victims too scared to come forward. Complaint investigations that went nowhere. Body cameras that malfunctioned at convenient moments. She'd seen officers lie on the stand and walk away. She'd watched prosecutors who were too cozy with the police to ask hard questions. "What do you need from me?" she'd asked. "Your insight, your credibility, and your patience. This is going to take time." So for 6 months, Sophia has been reviewing files in secret. Incident reports, complaint histories, use of force statistics. Names have emerged. Patterns have crystallized. And one name keeps appearing, over and over, like a stain that won't wash out. Officer Mark Harlan. 43 citizen complaints in 15 years. 87% involving people of color. Use of force rate 5 times higher than his peers. $2 million in settlements paid by the county with taxpayer money for his conduct. And yet he's still on the street, still carrying a badge, still wearing that gun on his hip. The FBI has been building the case carefully. Surveillance, interviews, documentation. They're close, so close, to bringing federal charges. Civil rights violations under color of law. Conspiracy. Maybe even RICO charges if they can prove the department systematically covered for him. But they need one more thing. An incident so clear, so undeniable, that no one can explain it away. Sophia doesn't know it yet, but in 7 minutes, Officer Mark Harlan is going to hand them exactly that. She reaches the courthouse square just as the streetlights begin to flicker off. The building rises before her. White stone, classical columns. The kind of architecture meant to inspire reverence for the law. Above the main entrance, barely visible in the morning dimness, hangs a bronze plaque. The Honorable Judge S. Brooke, presiding. She passes it every morning. She never looks up. Today, she should have. Sophia checks her watch. 6:54 a.m. The security desk won't be staffed until 7:15. She has her access card. She'll let herself into the side entrance, make coffee in her chambers, and have 30 minutes of peace before a clerk arrives. She's thinking about the motion hearing scheduled for 9 o'clock. Complex Securities fraud case. The defense is going to argue for dismissal based on a technicality. They won't win. She's read the precedent. But they'll make it interesting. She's thinking about lunch with Chief Judge Margaret Doyle, who wants to discuss the court's budget. She's thinking about her nephew's birthday party this weekend, and whether she should buy him the telescope he wants or something more practical. She's thinking about ordinary things, because this is supposed to be an ordinary morning. The fog thickens. The street is empty except for a few cars passing in the distance. And then she hears it. Tires on wet pavement, slowing down behind her. Sophia doesn't turn around immediately. There's no reason to. Police cruisers pass by the courthouse all day. This building is in the heart of downtown Jackson, surrounded by government offices and law firms. Officers come and go constantly. But something makes her glance over her shoulder. A Jackson Police Department patrol car has pulled to the curb 20 feet behind her. The driver's door opens. An officer steps out, tall, broad-shouldered, white, mid-40s. His face is hard, the kind of hardness that comes from years of seeing people as problems to be solved or threats to be neutralized. He doesn't smile, doesn't nod, doesn't acknowledge her as a fellow human being walking to work on a foggy morning. He stares. Sophia turns back toward the courthouse. She's 10 steps from the entrance. Her hand moves instinctively toward her briefcase, where her judicial ID card sits in the front pocket. She doesn't know why she feels a need to touch it, to confirm it's there. Instinct, maybe. The old instinct that never quite goes away, no matter how many degrees you earn or how high you rise. The instinct that says, prove you belong here. Hey! The voice behind her is sharp, aggressive, not a greeting, a command. Sophia stops. She turns slowly, professionally. Her face is calm, neutral. She's been in courtrooms for over 23 years. She knows how to control her expression. The officer is walking toward her now, his hand resting casually on his belt near his holster. The gesture is deliberate, meant to be noticed, meant to intimidate. Yes, officer? Sophia's voice is steady. Polite. Can I help you? He stops 6 feet away, his eyes scanning her up and down with undisguised contempt. You don't belong here. The words hang in the foggy air between them. Sophia's heart rate increases slightly. She can feel it, the old familiar tension, but her face remains perfectly composed. I'm sorry. Don't play dumb. His voice rises, edged with something ugly, something that's been there all along, just waiting for an excuse to come out. You people always trying to sneak into government buildings. You people. 2 words. Sophia has heard them 1,000 times in 1,000 different contexts, delivered with 1,000 different levels of venom. She knows exactly what they mean. She knows exactly what this is. But she's Judge Sophia Brooke. She's presided over federal trials. She stared down defense attorneys and prosecutors and corporate lawyers who thought they could intimidate her. She will not be bullied on the steps of her own courthouse. "Officer," she says, her voice dropping into what her clerks call courtroom mode. Calm, authoritative, unshakable. "I work here. I'm simply arriving for her." She doesn't finish the sentence. Because Officer Mark Harlan, though she doesn't know his name yet, won't learn it until later when she sees it on his badge in the harsh fluorescent lights of the holding room, strikes her across the face with the back of his hand. The blow comes so suddenly, so unexpectedly, that Sophia's mind can't quite process it at first. There's the impact, sharp, shocking, the crack of his knuckles against her cheekbone, the metallic taste of blood in her mouth, the world tilting sideways as she stumbles backward, her briefcase flying from her hand. It hits the courthouse steps and bursts open. Papers scatter like snow. Legal briefs, case summaries, notes in her careful handwriting. They flutter down the stone steps, catching in the morning wind, landing in puddles of overnight rain. Sophia's hand goes to her face. The skin is already swelling, hot to the touch. Her vision blurs with tears. Not from sadness, not from fear, but from the simple physical reaction of being struck. She looks up at the officer, and what she sees in his eyes is worse than the violence itself. He's smiling. Filthy trash like you think you can walk in here? His voice is loud now, theatrical, like he's performing for an audience. And then Sophia realizes he is. 2 more officers have appeared. She didn't hear them approach. Everything is muffled now, distant, like she's underwater. They're standing near their own cruiser, parked across the street. One of them, young, baby-faced, probably early 20s, has his phone out, recording. The other is older, heavy-set, his arms crossed over his chest as he watches. They're both laughing. The sound of their laughter cuts through the fog, through the shock, through everything. It's casual, easy laughter. The kind of laughter you share with friends over a joke, over a beer after shift, over something meaningless and forgettable. They are laughing at her pain. Officer Harlan grabs her by the throat. His hand is large, calloused, and it closes around her windpipe with practiced precision. He knows exactly how much pressure to apply. Enough to terrify, enough to control, but not quite enough to leave marks that would be too obvious later. He slams her backward against the courthouse wall. The impact drives the air from her lungs. The rough stone scrapes against her back, through her blazer. Her head snaps back and hits the wall, and for a moment everything goes white. "You listening now?" His face is inches from hers. She can smell coffee on his breath, stale and bitter. Trash like you need to learn respect. Sophia can't breathe, can't speak, can barely think, but she can see. Through the blurriness, through the pain, through the hand squeezing her throat, she can see the bronze plaque above the entrance. It's right there, 5 feet above Harlan's head, visible from where she's pinned against the wall. The Honorable Judge S. Brooke, presiding. The irony is so sharp, it almost makes her laugh. Almost. Instead, she does something that will later be described by FBI analysts as extraordinary presence of mind under duress. She memorizes his face. The number on his badge, she can just make it out. 2847. The faces of the other 2 officers. The make and model of their phones. The license plate is Cruiser, visible over his shoulder. JPD 4192. The exact words he's saying, the exact sequence of events. Every detail. Every moment. Every second. Because Sophia Brooke didn't get to the federal bench by panicking. She got there by being smarter, more prepared, more thorough than everyone else in the room. And even now, being choked on the steps of her own courthouse, she is already building the case. Harlan releases her throat. She gasps, sucking in air, her hand going to her neck. He grabs her wrist instead, twisting her arm behind her back with enough force that something pops in her shoulder. Not a break, not a dislocation, but pain that shoots down her arm like electricity. "You're under arrest," he announces loudly, yanking her forward. Trespassing, resisting arrest, and assaulting an officer. Through the pain, through the shock, Sophia almost admires the audacity of it. He's already writing the report in his head. He's already planned his lies. He's done this before. She doesn't resist as he drags her toward his cruiser, doesn't fight as he shoves her into the back seat, her head nearly hitting the door frame, doesn't speak as he slams the door shut, leaving her cuffed and bruised in the cage-like rear compartment. The other two officers are still recording. She can see them through the window, their phones pointed at her like cameras at a zoo, capturing footage of the dangerous criminal they've apprehended. One of them, the baby-faced one, gives a thumbs up to the camera and mouths something she can't hear, but she can read his lips well enough. Got her. As Harlan walks back toward his cruiser, he passes the scattered papers from her briefcase. He kicks one with his boot, a brief she spent 3 hours writing last night. It lands in a puddle and begins to dissolve, ink bleeding across wet paper. He doesn't even look at what he's destroying. And in that moment, sitting in the back of a police car with her face throbbing and her wrist already bruising beneath the too tight cuffs, Judge Sophia Brooke makes a decision. She will remember every detail of this morning, every word, every action, every second. And when the time comes, and it will come, she will make sure everyone else remembers it too. The drive to the courthouse's basement holding facility takes less than 2 minutes. They could have walked. That's how close she was to the entrance when Harlan stopped her. But that wouldn't have given them time to coordinate their story. Sophia watches through the metal grate, separating the back seat from the front. Harlan is on his radio, his voice calm and professional now, all the rage carefully packaged into bureaucratic language. Dispatch! This is Unit 47. Show me 10 to 15 with one female subject, approximately 50 years old, 5'6", black female, trespassing and assault on Elio, transporting to courthouse holding. 10 to 15, suspect in custody. Elio, law enforcement officer. He's already building the narrative, the official version, the version that will go into reports and databases and court records. Sophia knows how this works. She's read hundreds of these reports. She's presided over dozens of cases where the official narrative and the truth were miles apart. The question is always the same. Who will the system believe? They pull into the underground garage. Harlan opens her door and pulls her out roughly, not bothering to steady her when she stumbles. The concrete is cold and gray, lit by flickering fluorescent lights that make everything look sickly and unreal. The two other officers are already there, having arrived moments before. Up close, Sophia can read their name tags, Officers Brian Cole and Jake Turner. Cole is the young one with the phone. Turner is the older one who was laughing. Body cams on? Harlan asks. Mine's off, Cole says. Yours. Malfunction this morning, Harlan replies smoothly. Lucky Turner got some footage on his phone. Just the important part, Turner adds with a smirk. When she got aggressive, they're not even pretending to hide it from her. They think she's nobody. They think she can't touch them. Sophia says nothing, just watches, just remembers. They walk her through the holding area, a series of gray concrete rooms with metal benches and industrial lighting. At this hour, it's empty except for a bored-looking intake officer who barely glances up from his computer. What's the charge, he asks. Trespassing on federal property. Harlan says, resisting arrest. Assault on a police officer. The intake officer types without expression. He's processed 1,000 suspects. She's just another number. Name! Sophia could speak now, could announce herself, could end this nightmare before it goes any further. But something stops her. Some instinct that's sharper than fear, sharper than outrage. Because if she reveals who she is now, Harlan and his partners will simply adjust their story. They'll claim it was a misunderstanding. They'll apologize profusely. They'll say the fog made it hard to see, that she wasn't wearing her usual courthouse attire, that they were just being cautious about security. And it will be their word, 3 sworn officers, against her experience. But if she waits, if she lets them commit fully to their lies, if she lets them testify under oath to their fabricated version of events, then she'll have them. Sophia Mae Brooke, she says quietly, the intake officer types. Still not looking up. Address? She provides it, her home address in a nice neighborhood in Northeast Jackson. The kind of address that should raise eyebrows when paired with charges of trespassing and assault. But the officer just types mechanically, following his routine. Occupation? This is it. Last chance to stop this before it becomes something bigger. Attorney. Sophia says. It's not a lie. She's still a member of the bar. Emergency contact? She provides her sister's number. They'll call eventually. When they process her for temporary holding, her sister will freak out. Her sister will call Chief Judge Doyle. Her sister will mobilize half the legal establishment in Mississippi. But that will take hours. And in those hours, Officer Harlan and his friends will have plenty of time to tell their story to anyone who'll listen. They take her to a holding cell, 8 by 10 feet, a metal bench, a toilet without a seat, painted cinder block walls. They remove the handcuffs, and the sudden release of pressure makes her wrists throb. Dark bruises are already forming where the metal bit into her skin. The cell door clangs shut. Someone will bring you before a judge in an hour or so. Harlan says through the bars. His voice is almost kind now, almost concerned, and that's what makes it truly sinister. Maybe you'll get bail. Maybe not. He walks away, his boots echoing down the concrete corridor. Sophia sits on the metal bench. Her face throbs. Her shoulder aches. Her throat feels raw and tight, but her mind is crystal clear. She looks up at the corner of the ceiling and spots it immediately, a small black dome, barely visible against the dark paint. Security camera. This holding area is in the courthouse basement. These cameras feed into the courthouse security system. Every entrance, every hallway, every holding cell, all of it recorded, all of it backed up on central servers. And the outside cameras, the ones positioned above the courthouse entrance, the ones that would have captured her arrival this morning, those cameras are maintained by federal courthouse security, not the Jackson Police Department, not the county. Federal, which means Officer Harlan and his partners can't touch the footage, can't edit it, can't make it disappear. Sophia leans back against the cold cinder block wall, closes her eyes, and waits. 1 hour becomes 2. 2 becomes 3. No one comes. The silence is absolute except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional drip of water from a pipe somewhere in the ceiling. No footsteps. No voices. No sound of other prisoners or officers making rounds. They're making her wait, making her uncomfortable, making her worry. Standard intimidation tactic. Sophia has seen it used 100 times. The longer you leave someone in holding, the more cooperative they become when you finally show up with a deal. But Sophia isn't most people. She uses the time productively, mentally reviews every second of the encounter, fixing each detail in her memory. The exact angle Harlan's hand struck her face. The precise words he used. You people, filthy trash. The laughter of the other officers. The deliberate way Turner positioned his phone to start recording only after the initial assault. She catalogs her injuries. Swelling on her left cheek, probably bruised bone but not broken. Tenderness in her throat. Likely bruising but no serious damage to her windpipe. Pain in her right shoulder, strained muscle or ligament. Bruises on both wrists from the handcuffs. All of it documentable. All of it evidence. She thinks about the FBI investigation, about Agent Kowalski and the team who've been building the case against Harlan for 6 months, about the patterns they've documented, the victims they've interviewed, the complaints that were buried. She thinks about the 47 citizen complaints against Harlan over 15 years, the $2.3 million in settlements, the use of force statistics that are 5 times higher than average for officers in his department. And she thinks about what just happened. A federal judge, assaulted on the steps of her own courthouse, in broad daylight, by an officer who didn't even bother to check her ID first. This isn't just excessive force. This is pattern and practice. This is civil rights violation under color of law. This is federal. And now, Officer Harlan has just made it personal. The clock on the wall reads 9:47 a.m. when she finally hears footsteps approaching. But the worst is yet to come. Because in the next hour, Officer Mark Harlan will stand before a temporary judge and tell a story so polished, so perfectly rehearsed, that it will almost sound believable. He will paint Judge Sophia Brooke as a dangerous criminal. He will swear under oath to a version of events that never happened. And the system, the same system she served for 23 years, will believe him. At least it will try to, What Harlan doesn't know, what none of them know yet, is that the woman sitting in that holding cell isn't just another victim. She's the one person in Mississippi who has the knowledge, the authority, and the evidence to dismantle everything he's built. Justice is about to take off her blindfold. The footsteps belong to a bailiff. Not Tom Henderson, the regular bailiff who's worked Judge Brooks' courtroom for 12 years, but a younger man Sophia doesn't recognize. He's holding a clipboard and looks bored, the kind of boredom that comes from doing the same task 1,000 times without thinking about the human being on the other end of it. "Brooke," he calls, not even looking at her face. "You're up. Temporary arraignment." Temporary arraignment? Sophia stands slowly, her muscles stiff from 3 hours on the metal bench. What does that mean? Judge Reeves is handling emergency arraignments today. Judge Brooks' docket got moved. Some kind of scheduling thing. He unlocks the cell door. "Let's go. He's got 6 more after you." The irony isn't lost on Sophia. Judge Douglas Reeves, a county judge, technically lower in the judicial hierarchy than her federal position, is going to arraign her. Reeves is competent enough, if a bit by the book. They've had coffee together a few times at judicial conferences. He knows her, or at least knows of her. The question is, will he recognize her looking like this? Her blazer is wrinkled and dirty from being slammed against the courthouse wall. Her face is swollen, her left eye already showing the purple yellow tinge of a developing bruise. Her hair has come loose from its bun, strands hanging in her face. She looks exactly like what Harlan wanted to look like, a disheveled suspect who got into a physical altercation with police. The bailiff leads her through a maze of basement corridors, gray concrete, flickering lights, the smell of industrial cleaner and mildew. They emerge in a back hallway of the main courthouse, one Sophia knows well. She's walked past this spot 100 times on her way to her own courtroom. They're 3 floors below her chambers. The bailiff opens a door marked Courtroom 3B, Emergency Proceedings, and gestures for her to enter. The room is smaller than her usual courtroom, designed for quick hearings and preliminary matters. There's a gallery with about 20 seats, mostly empty except for 3 people in the back row, a public defender clutching a worn briefcase, a court reporter setting up her machine, and a woman who might be a law student or a journalist taking notes. At the prosecution table sits Assistant District Attorney Marcus Webb, a man Sophia has never particularly liked. He's ambitious, eager to please law enforcement, and has a troubling habit of taking officers at their word without asking hard questions. She's watched him from the bench during federal-state joint proceedings, seeing how he defers to police testimony even when it doesn't quite add up. Today, he's smiling, confident, ready, and at the defense table sits a court-appointed attorney, a middle-aged man with a tired face named Gerald Morris. Sophia knows Gerald from the legal community. He's competent, overworked, and handles about 70 cases at a time because the public defender's office is chronically understaffed. He glances at Sophia as the bailiff seats her next to him, his expression carefully neutral. He doesn't recognize her. Why would he? They've only met at legal receptions, and she was always in professional attire with perfect hair and makeup. "Ms. Brooke." Gerald extends his hand. "I'm your court-appointed counsel, Gerald Morris." She shakes his hand, says nothing. Not yet. Judge Douglas Reeves enters through the door behind the bench, tall, distinguished, silver-haired, wearing his black robes with the careful dignity of someone who takes the job seriously. He's 62, 3 years from retirement, and has been on the county bench for 27 years. "All rise," the bailiff calls. Everyone stands. Sophia stands. The surreal absurdity of it washes over her. She's standing for another judge in a courthouse where her name is literally engraved on a plaque outside. Reeves sits, arranges his papers, and looks up. His eyes pass over Sophia without recognition. He sees what everyone else sees, a defendant bruised and disheveled, in custody for assault. "Please be seated." Reeves says, "Let's proceed. Case number 2025, CR 1847, State of Mississippi versus Sophia Brooke." The court reporter's fingers fly across a machine, recording every word. The official record is being created right now, in real time, and every word spoken in this courtroom will become part of the permanent legal history of this case. Sophia makes a mental note. Request transcript immediately after this is over. Ms. Brooke, Reeves continues, you've been appointed counsel. Have you had adequate time to consult with Mr. Morris? Gerald starts to speak, but Sophia touches his arm gently. No, Your Honor, she says clearly. I've had no time to consult with counsel. I was held in a cell for 3 hours without communication. Her voice is steady, professional. It carries authority, even though she's sitting at the defense table. Reeves frowns slightly. Is that accurate, counselor? Gerald checks his watch. I was only notified of this case 40 minutes ago, Your Honor. I came directly here. Noted. Reeves says, he makes a mark on his paper. Mr. Webb, please present the charges. ADA Marcus Webb stands, smoothing his tie. He's enjoying this. Sophia can see it in his posture, in the slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He thinks this is going to be an easy win. A trespasser caught red-handed, resisting arrest, assaulting police. Straightforward. Your Honor, the defendant is charged with 3 counts. Trespassing on federal property, resisting arrest, and assault on a law enforcement officer. The state requests remand pending a full hearing given the serious nature of the assault charge. Assault on an officer? Reeves looks up sharply. That's a serious charge. What are the circumstances? The arresting officer is present and can testify. Your Honor, Officer Mark Harlan of the Jackson Police Department. Sophia's eyes track to the back of the courtroom. She'd been so focused on Reeves and Webb that she hadn't noticed Harlan slip in. He's sitting in the gallery, still in uniform, his posture relaxed. Confident, he meets her gaze and smiles. Not a friendly smile, a victorious one. Approach, Officer Harlan. Reeves says. Harlan walks forward with the easy swagger of a man who's testified in court dozens of times. He's good at this part. The performance, the narrative, the careful construction of lies that sound like truth. He places his hand on the Bible, swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Then he begins to lie. Your Honor, at approximately 6:50 this morning, I was on routine patrol near the federal courthouse when I observed the defendant acting suspiciously near the main entrance. Harlan's voice is measured, professional. He's not angry anymore, not aggressive. He's officer-friendly, just doing his job. Concerned about courthouse security. Suspicious how? Reeves asks. She was walking back and forth near the entrance, looking around repeatedly, checking her watch. Given recent concerns about courthouse security nationwide, I thought it prudent to make contact. Sophia's jaw tightens. She was walking directly to the entrance, not back and forth. She checked her watch once. These are small lies, but they're adding up, creating a picture of someone who didn't belong, someone who was casing the building. I exited my vehicle and approached her politely. Harlan continues. I identified myself as a police officer and asked if I could help her with something. She became immediately defensive and hostile. Hostile how? She refused to provide identification. When I explained that I needed to verify her purpose for being at the courthouse, she became verbally aggressive, using profanity, and he pauses, as if uncomfortable with what he has to say next, and making racially derogatory comments toward me. The lie is so audacious that Sophia nearly laughs. She said nothing, not one word of profanity, not one racial comment. She asked him to help, tried to explain she worked there, and was struck in the face before she could finish a sentence. But Harlan delivers it perfectly, with just enough hesitation to make it sound reluctant, like he's uncomfortable repeating what happened, but duty-bound to tell the truth. I attempted to de-escalate, Harlan says. I explained that if she would simply show me identification, we could clear this up quickly. That's when she became physical. Physical how? She swung her briefcase at my head, Your Honor, made contact with my shoulder. He touches his left shoulder, wincing slightly. I had no choice but to defend myself. I attempted to restrain her for officer safety, and she continued to resist, striking at my face and chest. Sophia's hands curl into fists beneath the table. Every word is a fabrication. Every gesture is calculated. Gerald Morris leans over and whispers, Did you hit him? She shakes her head once. Firmly, Gerald makes a note. He's heard 1,000 police testimonies. He knows they sometimes stretch the truth. But he also knows that juries and judges tend to believe officers. It's a default position. Why would a cop lie under oath? Your Honor, Harlan continues. At this point, Officers Cole and Turner arrived on scene in response to my radio call for backup. They can corroborate that the defendant was physically aggressive and resistant to arrest. Are they present? Reeves asks. Yes, Your Honor. Webb calls them forward one at a time. First Cole, the baby-faced young officer who was recording on his phone. Then Turner, the older one who laughed. They each swear the oath. They each tell the same story, with minor variations that actually make it sound more credible. If they were perfectly identical, it might seem rehearsed. But Cole remembers Sophia swinging her briefcase. Turner remembers her shouting profanity. Both remember Harlan trying to calm her down, trying to de-escalate, forced to use minimal force to protect himself. It's a masterclass in coordinated lying. And then Webb drops his evidence. Your Honor, we have video documentation of the incident. He approaches the bench with a tablet. Officer Turner recorded the encounter on his personal phone. Sophia's pulse quickens. This is it, the edited footage. The version that starts after Harlan hit her. The version that shows only what they want people to see. Reeves takes the tablet and watches. Sophia can't see the screen from her position, but she can see his face. His expression is neutral, judicial, giving nothing away. 30 seconds pass. A minute. The courtroom is silent except for the tinny audio from the tablet. She can just barely hear her own voice distorted, saying something she can't make out. Reeves hands the tablet back to Webb. I've reviewed the footage. It appears to show the defendant in a confrontational posture with Officer Harlan attempting to restrain her. That's not. Sophia begins, but Gerald touches her arm. Not yet, he whispers. Let me handle it. But Gerald is overworked and underprepared. He hasn't had time to investigate. He doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know about the security cameras. He doesn't know that the footage Webb just showed is a carefully edited lie. Your Honor, Gerald says, standing, I'd like to request a full copy of that video for review, as well as any body camera footage on the officers involved. Good, Sophia thinks. That's the right question. Body camera footage? Reeves looks at Harl. Unfortunately, Your Honor, my body camera malfunctioned this morning. Technical issues. It happens sometimes with the equipment. Harlan's face is perfectly earnest, but Officer Turner's phone footage captured the relevant portion of the encounter. The relevant portion, Gerald repeats, but not the beginning of the encounter, not the initial contact. I didn't start recording until Officer Harlan radioed for backup. Turner says, standard procedure is to secure the scene first, then document if necessary. It's not standard procedure. Sophia knows that. Officers are supposed to activate body cameras during any enforcement contact. But Turner delivers the lies smoothly, backed up by his uniform and badge. Gerald sits down. He's done what he can with no preparation and no evidence. Sophia can see it in his posture. He believes his client is probably guilty, that she probably did swing that briefcase, that the officers are probably telling the truth. The system is working exactly the way it's designed to work. Based on the testimony and evidence presented, Reeves says, I find probable cause for all 3 charges. The question is bail. Webb stands immediately. Your Honor, the state requests remand without bail. The defendant violently assaulted a police officer. She presents a clear danger to law enforcement and the community. Your Honor, that's excessive. Gerald protests. My client has no prior criminal record. She claimed to work at this courthouse. Webb interrupts, which turned out to be false. She was found with what appeared to be stolen legal documents in her possession. We believe she may have been attempting to gain access to the building for unlawful purposes. Sophia's papers, her case files, her own legal briefs from cases she's presiding over. They're calling them stolen documents. The absurdity would be funny if it weren't so dangerous. Mr. Morris, Reeves says, does your client have employment? Ties to the community? Gerald looks at Sophia. She hasn't told him anything, hasn't explained who she is or what she does, because she's been waiting. watching, building her case. But now, right now, she has a choice to make. She can reveal herself, end this farce immediately, or she can wait just a little bit longer, let them commit fully, let the lies be told under oath, recorded by the court reporter, entered into the permanent record. Let them hang themselves. Sophia makes her decision. Your Honor, she says, her voice cutting through the courtroom with quiet authority. Every head turns toward her. Before you proceed with a bail determination, I'd like to make a formal request. Reeves looks mildly surprised. Defendants don't usually speak directly to the judge. That's what lawyers are for. But he nods. You may speak, Ms. Brooke. I request the immediate preservation of all courthouse surveillance footage from this morning, specifically from 6:45 a.m. to 7 a.m., covering all exterior and interior cameras in this facility. The specificity of the request makes Reeves pause. This isn't the language of a scared defendant. This is the language of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. I also request, Sophia continues, the preservation of all backup recordings from police body cameras worn by officers Harlan, Cole, and Turner, including any footage automatically uploaded to the department's central storage system. Webb frowns. Harlan's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Those are very specific requests. Reeves observes. Why would you need? Because, Your Honor, the testimony given by these officers is factually inaccurate, and the video evidence presented to this court is incomplete and misleading. The full evidence will demonstrate that I committed no crime, that I was assaulted without provocation, and that these charges are entirely fabricated. Her tone is measured, professional, not angry, not desperate, simply factual. Gerald Morris is staring at her like he's never seen her before, which, in a sense, he hasn't. Ms. Brooke, Reeves says slowly, those are serious allegations. Are you accusing 3 sworn police officers of perjury? I'm not accusing anyone of anything, Your Honor. I'm simply requesting that all evidence be preserved so the truth can be established. She pauses and adds, I believe when you review the complete footage, you'll find my request was not only reasonable but necessary. Webb stands abruptly. Your Honor, this is clearly a delay tactic. The defendant is throwing out wild accusations too. The defendant has a right to request evidence preservation. Reeves interrupts. He's looking at Sophia now with more attention, more focus. Something about her demeanor is registering. Ms. Brooke, you're speaking with unusual familiarity with legal procedure. Are you, in fact, an attorney? Here it is. The moment. Sophia could say yes. Could explain she's a member of the bar. Could let that partial truth carry her a little further. See how much deeper this hole gets before she reveals the full picture. But something in Reeves' face tells her he's starting to put pieces together. The way she speaks. The precise legal language. The confidence in her posture, despite the bruises and the handcuffs. Your Honor, she says carefully, who exactly is the presiding federal judge for this district? It's a strange question. An oblique question. But it lands like a thunderbolt. Reeves' face goes very still. Judge Sophia Brooke presides over. He stops. Looks down at his papers. Reads the defendant's name again. Looks back up at the woman, sitting at the defense table. The woman with the swollen face and the bruised wrists and the carefully neutral expression. His face goes pale. Oh my God, he whispers. The courtroom erupts into motion. Webb stands confused. Gerald Morris drops his pen. The court reporter's hands freeze over her machine. The bailiff who brought Sophia in is standing by the door, his mouth literally hanging open. And Officer Mark Harlan, sitting in the gallery, realizes, slowly, horribly, what he's done. Your Honor, Sophia says quietly into the chaos. Perhaps we should take a brief recess while you verify my identity. My judicial ID card was in my briefcase, which was confiscated during my arrest. I believe it's currently in the property room. Reeves nods mutely. He looks like he might be sick. Yes, we'll take a 15-minute recess. Bailiff, please. He trails off, unsure what to order. You can't put a federal judge back in a holding cell. You can't keep her in handcuffs. But the formal process hasn't been resolved yet. Bailiff, Sophia suggests gently, Perhaps I could wait in counsel's conference room while this is sorted out? Yes, Reeves says gratefully. Yes, that's Henderson. Tom Henderson appears from the hallway, the regular bailiff, Sophia's bailiff, who must have just arrived for his normal shift. He takes one look at Sophia sitting at the defense table in handcuffs, and his eyes go wide. Judge Brooke. His voice cracks. What the... Tom, she says calmly. It's been an unusual morning. Could you escort me to the conference room? And perhaps find my briefcase and ID card? Henderson moves like he's in a dream. He unlocks her handcuffs with shaking hands, murmuring apologies, leads her toward the door. The whole courtroom watches in stunned silence. As Sophia passes Officer Harlan in the gallery, she doesn't look at him, doesn't need to. She can feel his panic radiating off him like heat. She walks out of the courtroom with her head high, Tom Henderson at her elbow, leaving behind a room full of people trying to process what just happened. 15 minutes is all it takes. Tom Henderson retrieves her briefcase from property. Papers still scattered inside, but her ID card intact in the front pocket. The gold federal seal gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The photo matching her face, even accounting for the swelling. The title unmistakable. Judge Sophia Brooke, Federal Court of Mississippi. Someone calls Chief Judge Margaret Doyle. Doyle arrives at the courthouse in 12 minutes flat, having broken every speed limit between her home and downtown Jackson. She takes one look at Sophia's face and her expression goes from concern to furious in the space of a heartbeat. Who did this? Doyle demands. Officer Mark Harlan, JPD badge 2847. Sophia recites, along with Officers Brian Cole and Jake Turner. They're all in courtroom 3B right now, probably trying to figure out how to revise their testimony. Doyle makes 3 phone calls in rapid succession. One to the FBI field office, one to the courthouse security director, one to the U.S. Attorney's office. All courthouse surveillance footage for this morning is to be secured immediately, she orders. No one touches it. No one reviews it without my direct authorization. And I want the central backup server for JPD body cameras locked down. Federal warrant if necessary. She hangs up and turns to Sophia. Hospital first, then... No, Sophia says firmly. Court first. Hospital after. I want to finish this while they're still in that courtroom, while they're still under oath, while the transcript is still being recorded. Sophia, Margaret, they lied. They committed perjury in a court of law. They assaulted a federal officer, and they did it because they thought I was nobody. Her voice is steel. I want this on the record. All of it. Today. Doyle studies her for a long moment, then nods. Okay, but I'm calling Agent Kowalski. He needs to be here for this. He's probably already on his way, Sophia says. Because of course he is. The FBI has had Harlan under surveillance for months. They've been waiting for him to make a mistake. He just made the biggest mistake of his life. When court reconvenes 23 minutes later, the atmosphere has completely changed. Judge Reeves enters looking like he's aged 10 years. ADA Marcus Webb sits at the prosecution table pale and silent, clearly having been pulled aside and informed of exactly how catastrophically he screwed up. Gerald Morris has been replaced by a senior federal public defender who arrived just to observe. This case won't need a defense attorney, but protocol still requires someone at the table. And in the gallery, taking up the entire back row, are 5 FBI agents in dark suits. Agent Dennis Kowalski sits in the center, his expression neutral, but his presence unmistakable. Officers Harlan, Cole, and Turner are also still present. They were ordered to remain by Reeves, who's smart enough to know that letting them leave would look like obstruction. All 3 are now consulted with a police union lawyer, who appeared out of nowhere, whispering urgently in the hallway. But the real change is at the defense table, or rather, behind the bench, because when the bailiff calls, "All rise," it's Tom Henderson's voice that rings out clear and familiar through the courtroom. All rise. The Honorable Judge Sophia Brooke presiding. Sophia enters through the door behind the bench, wearing her black judicial robes. Someone, probably Tom, retrieved them from her chambers. Her face is still swollen, the bruise on her cheek now a deep purple. But the robe transforms her back into what she always was, A federal judge with 23 years on the bench and the full authority of the United States government behind her. She walks to her seat and sits. Surveys the courtroom. Makes eye contact with Officer Harlan. He looks like he wants to disappear into the floor. Please be seated, Sophia says. Her voice fills the room with quiet authority. Let's continue. Judge Reeves is standing to the side, technically not needed anymore, but present as a courtesy. Webb is frozen at the prosecution table. The FBI agents watch with professional interest. I'd like to thank Judge Reeves for handling the preliminary matters this morning, Sophia begins. Though I think we can all agree the circumstances were highly unusual. A nervous laugh ripples through the gallery. Tom Henderson is grinning openly. He's been with Sophia for 12 years and knows exactly what's coming. Before we proceed, Sophia continues, I'd like to address several matters for the record. First, Mr. Webb. The ADA stands reluctantly. Yes, Your Honor. The charges filed against me this morning, trespassing, resisting arrest, and assaulting a law enforcement officer. Do you wish to proceed with those charges? Webb looks like he's been asked to swallow broken glass. Your Honor, given the circumstances, the state moves to dismiss all charges with prejudice. Motion granted. The record will reflect that all charges against me are dismissed. Court finds no probable cause for arrest, no basis for prosecution, and no factual foundation for any of the allegations made. She pauses. Is that clear, Mr. Webb? Yes, Your Honor. Good. You may sit. Webb practically collapses into his chair. Sophia turns her attention to the three officers. Officer Harlan, Officer Cole, Officer Turner, please stand. They stand slowly, like men walking to execution. Their union lawyer starts to rise as well, but Sophia holds up one hand. Counsel, you'll have your opportunity. Right now, I'm addressing these officers directly about testimony given under oath in this courtroom approximately 1 hour ago. She adjusts her glasses. Her voice remains calm, but there's steel underneath. Officer Harlan, you testified that I was acting suspiciously near the courthouse entrance, that I refused to identify myself, that I became verbally aggressive and used profanity and racial slurs, that I swung my briefcase at you and struck you. Is that correct? Harlan's voice is barely audible. Your Honor, there may have been some misunderstanding. I asked if that was your testimony. Yes or no? Yes, Your Honor. And Officers Cole and Turner, you both corroborated this testimony. You both stated that you witnessed me acting aggressively toward Officer Harlan. Correct. Yes, Your Honor. They mumble in unison. I see. Sophia turns to the court's technical officer, who's been standing ready with a laptop. Please display the courthouse security footage from this morning. Timestamp 6:48 to 6:55 a.m., camera angle covering the main entrance. The large screen at the side of the courtroom flickers to life. And there it is. Everything. The footage is high definition. Crystal clear even in the morning fog. The timestamp runs in the corner. The camera angle captures the entire entrance area. 6:48 and 33 seconds a.m. Sophia walks toward the courthouse, briefcase in hand, walking directly to the entrance. No suspicious behavior. No back and forth. Just a woman going to work. 6:49 and 12 seconds a.m. Harlan's cruiser pulls up. He exits and approaches her. 6:49 and 41 seconds a.m. He speaks to her. The audio is faint, but courthouse security has enhancement software. Sophia nods to the tech officer, who increases the volume. Harlan's voice tinny but clear. Hey, you don't belong here. Sophia's voice calm. Excuse me? Harlan, don't play dumb. You people always trying to sneak into government buildings. The courtroom is absolutely silent. You could hear a pin drop. 6:49 and 58 seconds a.m. Sophia starts to respond. Before she can finish her sentence, Harlan strikes her across the face. Several people in the gallery gasp. One of the FBI agents writes something in a notebook. The footage continues. Shows Harlan grabbing her throat, slamming her against the wall. The papers scattering from her briefcase. Officers Cole and Turner arriving, laughing, filming on their phones. Every moment, every action, every word, Everything the officers swore didn't happen. When the footage ends, the silence is deafening. Sophia lets it stretch, lets everyone absorb what they just witnessed. Then she speaks. Officer Harlan, would you like to revise your testimony? He says nothing. His face is gray. Let me be very clear about what just occurred, Sophia says. 3 sworn law enforcement officers gave testimony under oath in this courtroom. That testimony was recorded by our court reporter and is now part of the official record. That testimony was false. Not mistaken. Not misremembered. False. She pauses, letting each word land with weight. You fabricated a narrative in which I was the aggressor. You edited video footage to support that narrative. You coordinated your stories to make them seem credible. And you did all of this with the expectation that the system would believe you over me, because you assumed I was nobody important. Harlan's lawyer finally stands. Your Honor, my clients were operating under stressful circumstances. Perhaps their recollection. Counselor, sit down. Sophia's voice doesn't rise, but the command is absolute. Your clients didn't misremember. They lied. And we're going to address that in a moment. But first, she nods to the tech officer again. Please display the body camera backup footage. Synchronized timeline. Your Honor, the officer says uncomfortably, Officer Harlan reported his camera as malfunctioning. I'm aware of what he reported. Please check the automatic backup system. All JPD body cameras upload to a central server every time the officer returns to their vehicle. It's a safety feature to prevent evidence from being lost or destroyed. The tech officer types rapidly. His eyes widen. Your Honor, there's footage here. It shows a fully functioning camera that was manually deactivated at 6:47 a.m. and reactivated at 7:02 a.m. Manually deactivated. Sophia repeats. Meaning Officer Harlan deliberately turned off his camera before approaching me and turned it back on after the assault was complete. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. She turns back to Harlan. One more chance. Officer, would you like to revise your testimony about the malfunctioning camera? His lawyer whispers urgently in his ear. Harlan shakes his head slowly. He knows he's already finished. Anything he says now will only make it worse. Your Honor, the lawyer says, I'd like to request a recess so my clients can consult with counsel. Denied, Sophia says flatly. We're continuing. She opened a folder on the bench. Inside are papers that Agent Kowalski delivered to her during the recess. The FBI's evidence files. 6 months of investigation into Officer Mark Harlan's pattern of abuse. Officer Harlan, Sophia says, I've been on this bench for 23 years. I graduated from Harvard Law School. I prosecuted 47 police misconduct cases. And do you know what I've learned in those 23 years? She looks directly at him. That misconduct is almost never an isolated incident. It's a pattern, a habit, a way of operating that happens again and again until someone finally says enough. She displays the first document on the screen. These are citizen complaints filed against you over the past 15 years. 47 of them. 87% involving people of color. Your use of force rate against minorities is 5 times higher than the average for your department. Another document. These are civil settlements paid by the county for your conduct. 8 separate incidents. Total payout, $2.3 million. Taxpayer money, Officer Harlan. Paid because you couldn't do your job without brutalizing people. Another document. These are the 43 criminal cases you were involved in over the past 10 years. Cases where your testimony was crucial to conviction. Cases we're going to reopen, every single one of them. Because if you lied under oath today, the court has to assume you may have lied under oath before. Harlan's face is white. His lawyer looks sick. Sophia leans forward. This isn't about a mistake, Officer Harlan. This is about a pattern. This is about a man who was given power and a badge and used them to terrorize people. And this morning you made a critical error. You assaulted someone who has the knowledge, the authority, and the evidence to ensure you finally face consequences. She sits back. Here's what's going to happen next. The FBI. She gestures to the agents in the gallery, has been investigating you for 6 months as part of a broader civil rights probe. They now have video evidence of you committing assault, battery, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, and perjury. Federal crimes. Officer Harlan. Not county, not state. Federal. Agent Kowalski stands. Your Honor, the FBI is prepared to take custody of all 3 officers immediately pending federal charges. So ordered, Sophia says. Bailiff, please place Officers Harlan, Cole, and Turner under arrest. Tom Henderson moves forward with handcuffs, and there's something almost poetic about it. A courthouse bailiff arresting police officers in the same courtroom where they try to destroy an innocent woman's life. As the cuffs click shut around Harlan's wrists, Sophia delivers her final statement. Officer Harlan, for the record, the charges against you include first-degree assault, assault on a federal judicial officer, perjury, deprivation of civil rights under color of law, and conspiracy. You'll be held without bail pending trial. And I want you to understand something very clearly. She waits until he's looking at her. Justice may be blind, she says quietly, but she is never asleep. The aftermath is just beginning. As Harlan and his partners are led away in handcuffs, the real work starts. Reopening cases, freeing the innocent, dismantling a system of corruption that's been operating for years. But Sophia knows that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about repair, about restoration, about making sure this never happens again. The reckoning has only just begun. The holding cell where they take Officer Mark Harlan is the same one where Sophia sat just 4 hours earlier. The irony is not lost on anyone. Tom Henderson escorts him personally, and there's a grim satisfaction in his step. He's been Judge Brooks' bailiff for 12 years. He's seen her rule fairly on hundreds of cases, watched her give every defendant their day in court, observe her careful attention to justice even when it would have been easier to take shortcuts. And this morning, 3 cops try to destroy her. Watch your head, Tom says flatly as Harlan ducks into the cell. The door clangs shut with a sound that seemed to echo forever. Harlan sits on the metal bench, the same bench Sophia sat on, and puts his head in his hands. Upstairs in her chambers, Sophia is finally allowing herself to feel it. The pain, the exhaustion, the delayed shock that she kept locked away while she presided over the hearing, maintained her composure, delivered justice with a steady hand. Now, sitting in her leather chair with the door closed, she lets out a breath that sounds like it's been held for hours. Her hands are shaking slightly. The adrenaline is wearing off, and everything hurts. Her face, her throat, her shoulder, her wrists. Chief Judge Margaret Doyle sits across from her, watching with the concerned eyes of someone who's been a judge long enough to recognize trauma when she sees it. Hospital. Doyle says firmly, right now, Sophia. You need X-rays, documentation, a full medical examination. I know. Sophia's voice is tired. I will. But first, I need to make some calls. There are people sitting in prison cells right now because of Harlan's testimony. Cases that need to be reviewed immediately. Sophia. Margaret. There's a man named Devin Mitchell, convicted 3 years ago of assaulting an officer. Harlan was the arresting officer and the primary witness. Mitchell got 7 years. He has 2 kids. She meets Doyle's eyes. If Harlan lied about me, he lied about Devin Mitchell. And I need to fix that today. Not tomorrow. Today. Doyle is quiet for a moment, then nods. Make your calls. Then hospital. Non-negotiable. Deal. As Doyle leaves, there's a knock on the door. Agent Dennis Kowalski enters, his FBI credentials hanging from his neck, his expression a mixture of concern and grim professional satisfaction. Judge Brooke. He takes the chair Doyle just vacated. How are you holding up? I've been better, Dennis. She manages a small smile. But I've also been worse. This is what we've been working toward, isn't it? 6 months of building the case. We just got our smoking gun. We got a whole arsenal. Kowalski agrees. That surveillance footage is airtight. The body cam evidence of deliberate deactivation. The perjury testimony is on official court record. And now that we have probable cause for federal charges, we can execute search warrants on Harlan's communications financial records, everything. He leans forward. Judge, I've been working civil rights cases for 15 years. I've seen a lot of bad cops. But what Harlan did this morning, assaulting a federal judge on courthouse steps in broad daylight, it tells me something important. What's that? He's so used to getting away with it that he didn't even consider the possibility of consequences. He saw a black woman in jeans and immediately assumed she was nobody. Didn't check ID, didn't ask questions, just attacked. That level of confidence comes from years of the system protecting him. Sophia nods slowly. How many cases? We've identified 43 criminal cases where Harlan was the primary arresting officer or key witness. Of those, 37 involved people of color. 22 resulted in convictions based primarily on his testimony. Kowalski pulls out a tablet. We're recommending immediate review of all 22. Some of those people are still incarcerated. Devin Mitchell. Sophia says immediately, top of the list. We've already contacted his attorney. The U.S. Attorney's Office is filing an emergency motion for his release this afternoon. Good. She pauses. What about the others? Cole and Turner. They're being charged as accessories. Conspiracy, obstruction of justice, perjury. They participated in the assault by failing to intervene. They helped fabricate evidence. And they lied under oath. They're looking at significant time, though probably not as much as Harlan. And the department? The supervisors who ignored 47 complaints. Kowalski's smile is cold. That's where this gets interesting. We're pursuing RICO charges against the department's command structure, pattern of misconduct, systemic cover-up, conspiracy to deprive citizens of civil rights. For supervisors are already under investigation. By the end of the week, we'll have warrants. Federal supervision? Already drafted. The department will be under federal consent decree for at least 5 years, probably longer. Every use of force incident, every complaint, every arrest, all of it reviewed by federal monitors. Sophia absorbs this. It's what she wanted, what she's been working toward. But it's also overwhelming. The scope of corruption, the number of lives damaged, the systemic failures that allowed Harlan to operate with impunity for 15 years. There's one more thing, Kowalski says quietly. The media is already picking this up. By tonight, this story will be national news. Federal judge assaulted by police, officers arrested for civil rights violations, massive corruption investigation. You're going to be in the spotlight, Judge. She hadn't thought about that yet. Hadn't considered that this morning's trauma will become a public spectacle, a symbol, a case study. I can't control the media, she says finally, but I can control the narrative. When I'm ready, I'll make a statement. On my terms. Fair enough. Kowalski stands. For now, focus on taking care of yourself. We've got the investigation covered. Harlan isn't going anywhere. After he leaves, Sophia sits in the quiet of her chambers, surrounded by law books and case files and the accumulated weight of 23 years on the bench. Her phone buzzes. Text messages flooding in as word spreads through the legal community. Colleagues expressing shock and support. Defense attorneys asking about case reviews. Reporters requesting interviews. She turns the phone face down and closes her eyes. In her mind, she sees it again. The fog, the courthouse steps, Harlan's hand striking her face, the paper scattering like snow. She sees herself sitting in a holding cell, bruised and cuffed, memorizing details for the case she knew she would build. She sees Harlan's face when he realized who she was, the color draining from his cheeks, the sudden understanding that he just destroyed his own life. Justice may be blind, she thinks, but sometimes she sees everything. The Mississippi Bar Association emergency meeting is called for that evening. Sophia doesn't attend. She's at the hospital getting x-rays and documentation as promised, but Margaret Doyle represents her, and she reports back later. Standing room only, Doyle says over the phone, I've never seen the legal community this unified about anything. Defense attorneys, prosecutors, judges, everyone is horrified. What's the mood? Sophia asks. She's back home now, her face cleaned and bandaged, prescription painkillers on a nightstand that she hasn't taken yet. She doesn't like how they make her feel fuzzy, angry, ashamed. determined. The bar is calling for a comprehensive review of every case involving the officers. They're setting up a task force. Pro bono attorneys are volunteering to handle case reviews. Good. There's more. The governor called. Wants to meet with you. The state attorney general is launching his own investigation parallel to the FBI's. And, Sophia, are you sitting down? I'm lying down, actually, on my couch with an ice pack. The ACLU is filing a class action lawsuit against the Jackson Police Department on behalf of everyone Harlan arrested over the past 15 years. They're seeking damages, policy reform, and a federal consent decree. Sophia closes her eyes. It's happening. The machine of justice, slow and grinding but inexorable, is finally moving. There's something else, Doyle continues, her voice gentler. Devin Mitchell's attorney filed emergency motion for release. Judge Patterson heard it this afternoon. Devin walked out of prison 3 hours ago. Sophia's throat tightens. 3 hours ago? He's with his kids right now. His attorney said, Sophia, he said Devin cried when they told him you were the judge who got assaulted. Said if it took you getting hurt for the truth to come out, he wished it had been him instead. Don't, Sophia whispers. Don't tell me things like that, Margaret. I can't. You need to hear it. You need to know what you did today. Not just for yourself, but for every person who was wronged by that system. After they hang up, Sophia lies on her couch in the gathering darkness, too tired to get up and turn on lights. Her sister offered to come stay with her, but she declined. She needs the quiet, needs time to process. Her mind drifts to Devin Mitchell. 7 years stolen from his life. His children growing up without their father. All because Harlan lied and the system believed him. How many others? How many people sitting in cells right now, convicted on fabricated evidence, their lives destroyed by a badge and a lie? The weight of it is crushing. But then she thinks, not anymore. After today, not anymore. 3 days later, on a Thursday morning that's clear and bright, no fog, no mist, just autumn sunshine, Sophia returns to the courthouse. She insisted on walking, despite her sister's protests. Same route she always takes. Down State Street, past the magnolia trees, approaching the main entrance. This time there are reporters, cameras, news vans parked along the curb. They see her coming and surge forward, microphones extended, questions shouted over each other. Judge Brooke, how are you feeling? Do you have any comment on the federal charges? Are you afraid of retaliation? Will you continue presiding over cases? Tom Henderson and 2 federal marshals materialize from nowhere, forming a protective barrier. They escort her through the crowd without her having to say a word. But at the courthouse entrance, the same spot where Harlan struck her, she pauses, turns to face the cameras. I'll make a brief statement, she says, her voice steady despite the lingering soreness in her throat. The reporters fall silent, cameras focusing. On Monday morning, I was assaulted by 3 police officers on these steps. They did not know I was a federal judge. They saw a black woman in casual clothes and assumed I was a threat, a criminal, someone who didn't belong here. They struck me, choked me, arrested me, and lied about what happened. She pauses, letting it sink in. But here's what I want people to understand. I am not special. What happened to me happens every day to people who don't have the power I have. People who don't have a judicial ID card or 23 years on the bench or the ability to fight back through the legal system. Those people deserve justice just as much as I do. And that's what this case is really about. Another pause. She can see people in office windows above, watching. Court staff standing in doorways. A maintenance worker has stopped mid-task, leaning on his broom to listen. The officers who assaulted me will face federal charges. But this isn't just about them. This is about a system that allowed their behavior to continue for years despite dozens of complaints. This is about supervisors who looked the other way. This is about a culture that valued solidarity over accountability. She looks directly into the nearest camera. I'm announcing today the formation of the Mississippi Justice Reform Initiative. We will review every case involving these officers. We will work to free the wrongly convicted. We will implement new policies for complaint investigation, use of force review, and officer accountability. And we will not stop until the system works the way it's supposed to, with equal justice under law for everyone, regardless of who they are or what they look like. The reporters explode with follow-up questions, but Tom Henderson is already guiding her inside. The last thing the cameras catch is the bronze plaque above the entrance. The Honorable Judge S. Brooke presiding. The trial of Officer Mark Harlan begins 6 months later. It takes place in federal court. Not Sophia's courtroom, obviously, but one floor below. She's recused herself from presiding, but she attends as a witness and a victim. The prosecution's case is airtight. They have video evidence, body camera proof of deliberate deactivation, testimony from multiple victims of Harlan's previous abuses, financial records showing the millions in settlements paid to cover up his misconduct, and most damning of all, the transcript from that morning in Judge Reeves' courtroom, where Harlan committed perjury while under oath. His defense is thin. His attorney argues stress, split-second decisions, and misunderstandings. The jury isn't buying it. Sophia testifies on day 3. She walks through every detail that morning. The fog, the approaching cruiser, the first words, the violence. She identifies the officers. She explains what she was thinking as she sat in the holding cell, how she methodically memorized every detail, because she knew this moment would come. The defense attorney tries to rattle her on cross-examination. Judge Brooke, isn't it true that you have been investigating Officer Harlan for months before this incident? Isn't it possible that you had a bias against him? I was consulted with the FBI on a broader investigation into patterns of police misconduct. Sophia answers calmly. Officer Harlan's name came up because of his record of complaints. But I had never met him before that morning. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know his badge number. I certainly didn't orchestrate being assaulted by him. But you admit you were looking for evidence against him. I was looking for truth. I found it when he struck me in the face and then lied about it under oath. The defense has no response to that. On day 7, the jury deliberates for 4 hours. They return with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. First-degree assault. Assault on a federal judicial officer. Perjury. Deprivation of civil rights under color of law. Conspiracy. Sentencing comes 2 weeks later. Sophia doesn't attend. It would be inappropriate. And frankly, she doesn't need to see Harlan's face again. But Margaret Doyle goes and reports back. 25 years, Doyle says. Federal prison, no parole. 25 years. Harlan is 46 years old. He'll be 71 when he's released, if he lives that long. What about Cole and Turner? Sophia asks. Turner got 12 years. Cole got 8. The judge said his youth and his lesser role warranted a slightly reduced sentence, but he was clear that participating in the cover-up and lying under oath were serious crimes. 8 years. 12 years. 25 years. Numbers that represent stolen time, stolen lives, stolen futures. The same thing Harlan did to his victims for 15 years. Justice, Sophia murmurs. Justice. Doyle agrees. But the real work isn't in the courthouse. It's in the aftermath. The Mississippi Justice Reform Initiative becomes a model for the nation. Within a year, they reviewed all 43 cases involving Harlan. 22 convictions are overturned. 18 people are released from prison for receive new trials and are acquitted. The state pays $8.7 million in compensation to Harlan's victims. Devin Mitchell gets $400,000 and full exoneration. His record is cleared. He finds work as a youth counselor, speaking to at-risk kids about his experience with wrongful conviction and the importance of truth. The Jackson Police Department is placed under federal consent decree. 4 supervisors are charged with conspiracy and obstruction. 3 plead guilty. 1 goes to trial and is convicted. The entire command structure is replaced. New policies are implemented. Mandatory body camera activation, independent complaint review, use of force audits, racial bias training. It's not perfect. Systems don't change overnight, but it's progress. Real, measurable progress. And 6 months after Harlan's sentencing, on a warm spring morning, Sophia arrives at the courthouse to find something new. The building has been renamed. Above the main entrance, where her name used to appear on a simple bronze plaque, there's now a large stone inscription, Sophia Brooke Federal Courthouse. And below it, on a polished brass plaque, words that make her stop and stare. On this ground, Justice found her voice. She stands there for a long moment, people passing around her, morning traffic humming in the background. She thinks about that foggy morning 7 months ago. The fear, the pain, the determination to remember every detail. She thinks about the system that protected Harlan for 15 years, and the system that finally held him accountable. She thinks about Devin Mitchell and the others who were freed, their lives partially restored even if the stolen years can never be returned. And she thinks about the message this sends, that justice isn't abstract, isn't blind the way people think. Justice sees, justice remembers, and sometimes justice strikes back. Tom Henderson appears beside her. Impressive, isn't it? They did the dedication ceremony last week, while you were at that conference in D.C. wanted to surprise you. They succeeded, Sophia says quietly. There's going to be a big ceremony next month. Governor's coming, Attorney General, the works. They want you to speak. I'll think about it. They walk inside together, passing beneath her name carved in stone, and Sophia feels something she hasn't felt in months. Peace. Not closure. There's no such thing as closure when injustice has done so much damage, but something like resolution. The sense that the work she started 23 years ago continues, that the system bent toward justice even when it was hard, even when it hurt. 1 year after her assault, Sophia is invited to speak at Harvard Law School, her alma mater, the place where she learned that excellence wasn't optional but survival. The auditorium is packed. Law students fill every seat, sit in the aisles, stand along the back wall. They're here to meet the judge who became a symbol, who turned personal trauma into systemic reform. Sophia walks to the podium in a simple black suit, her face fully healed now. No visible scars except for a slight discoloration on her cheek that she doesn't bother to cover with makeup. She looks out at the sea of young faces, diverse, eager, idealistic, and remembers being one of them. Thank you for that introduction, she begins. Though I have to say, being called a hero makes me uncomfortable. I didn't do anything heroic. I simply insisted that the law apply equally to everyone, including me. She pauses, letting them settle. I want to tell you about a morning that changed my life. But more importantly, I want to tell you what it taught me about justice, about power, and about the responsibility we carry as lawyers and judges. For the next hour, she walks them through it. Not the sensational version that made headlines, but the real version. Her fear in that holding cell, her strategic decision to wait, her understanding that revealing her identity too soon would let Harlan escape. She talks about the 47 complaints that were ignored, the millions in settlements paid with taxpayer money, the systemic failures that allowed abuse to flourish. Here's what people don't understand about that morning, she says. It wasn't about me being special. It was about me having the tools to fight back, legal knowledge, institutional authority, federal protection. Most people don't have those tools. Most people who get assaulted by police can't order surveillance footage preserved, can't call the FBI, can't preside over their own case. She leans forward, gripping the podium. And that's exactly why it matters that I could. Because my case exposed a system that victimizes people precisely because they don't have power. Every person Harlan abused was someone he thought was nobody. Someone who wouldn't be believed, wouldn't fight back, wouldn't matter. A student raises her hand. Sophia nods. Judge Brooke, do you think your race played a role in what happened? Of course it did, Sophia says without hesitation. Harlan saw a black woman and immediately assumed I was a threat. He didn't ask my name, didn't check my ID, didn't consider that I might belong there. That's racial profiling. That's bias. And it happens thousands of times every day in this country. Another hand. But you won, right? The system worked. Did it? Sophia challenges gently. I won because I had resources and knowledge that most people don't have. I won because I could navigate the system from the inside. But what about the people Harlan abused for 15 years before anyone stopped him? Did the system work for them? Silence in the auditorium. The system worked eventually, she continues, after 47 complaints, after $2.3 million in settlements, after 15 years of abuse, after a federal judge got assaulted on courthouse steps. That's when the system finally worked. We should all be asking ourselves, why did it take that long? What kind of system requires that level of harm before it responds? She lets the question hang. Here's what I learned. She says, finally, justice isn't self-executing. It doesn't happen automatically. It requires people, lawyers, judges, advocates, citizens, who are willing to do the hard work of holding power accountable. It requires institutions that value truth over convenience. And it requires all of us to recognize that the person being abused today could be us tomorrow. Another student. What would you say to someone who wants to be a judge after everything you went through? Sophia smiles. I'd say do it. We need judges who understand that justice is more than procedure, more than precedent. We need judges who remember what it feels like to be powerless, to be dismissed, to be hurt by the very system that's supposed to protect us. We need judges who wear the robe with humility and wield the gavel with purpose. She pauses, looking out at all those young faces. And I tell them what my father told me when I graduated from this very institution. Justice may be blind, but you don't have to be. Keep your eyes open. See the truth. And when the moment comes to act, don't hesitate. The auditorium erupts in applause. After her speech, students line up to speak with her. They ask about her cases, her career, her advice. One young black woman, tears in her eyes, says, "Thank you for not staying silent. Thank you for fighting." Sophia takes her hand. "Thank you for being here. We need you in this profession. We need people who understand what's at stake." As she leaves Harvard that evening, walking to the campus where she spent 3 grueling years learning to be twice as good as everyone else, Sophia thinks about circles closing. She came here as a student determined to survive. She returns as a judge determined to change systems. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real meaning of justice. Not revenge, not punishment, but transformation. The hard, slow work of making sure the next person doesn't have to fight the same battles you fought. Officer Mark Harlan sits in a federal correctional facility in Kentucky. He's inmate 89472-034 now, no longer officer. He works in the prison laundry for 12 cents an hour. His wife divorced him. His children no longer speak to him. He has 18 more years to serve. Sometimes, late at night in his cell, he thinks about that foggy morning. He thinks about the woman in jeans walking toward the courthouse, and how different his life would be if he just let her pass. But mostly, he tries not to think at all. Officers Brian Cole and Jake Turner are in the same facility, different cell blocks. Cole is taking college courses by correspondence, trying to build something for when he gets out in 6 years. Turner has given up, accepted that his life as he knew it is over. Neither has spoken to Harlan since sentencing. Some betrayals are too deep for even shared incarceration to bridge. Devin Mitchell completed his youth counselor training and now runs workshops in schools about criminal justice reform. His kids are in high school. He missed their elementary years, but he's determined not to miss anything else. He carries a photo of Judge Brooke in his wallet, not because she's a hero, but because she's a reminder. The system can change if people care enough to change it. Chief Judge Margaret Doyle retired last year, satisfied that the reforms she helped implement are working. She and Sophia have dinner once a month. 2 women who spent their lives in courtrooms, talking about everything except law. Agent Dennis Kowalski received a commendation for his work on the Harlan case. The investigation he led became a blueprint for civil rights prosecutions nationwide. He's training other agents now, teaching them how to build cases against systemic abuse. He never forgets. Justice is investigation, documentation, persistence. ADA Marcus Webb left the prosecutor's office 6 months after Harlan's conviction. Too many questions about his judgment, his willingness to believe police without scrutiny. He works in corporate law now, makes more money, sleeps worse. Some mistakes you can't outrun. Judge Douglas Reeves finished his term and retired as planned, but he implemented new protocols first. Every defendant gets asked directly if they've been mistreated in custody. Every officer's testimony is scrutinized. Every case gets the attention it deserves. Small changes, but they matter. And Judge Sophia Brooke? She still walks to the courthouse every morning. Same route, same time, same briefcase. The fog comes and goes with the seasons, but she never hesitates at the entrance anymore. She presides over a courtroom with the same careful attention she always has. But something has changed. She's more willing to question officer testimony, more skeptical of convenient narratives, more aware that the person standing before her might be one bad cop away from disaster. She speaks at law schools and judicial conferences. She consults with police reform initiatives. She trains new judges on recognizing bias and holding power accountable. But mostly, she just does the work. Case by case, ruling by ruling, decision by decision. The slow, unglamorous work of justice. People ask her sometimes if she's afraid, if she worries about retaliation, about other officers who might resent what she did to Harlan. She always gives the same answer. Fear is useful. It keeps you alert. But it can't keep you from doing what's right. 3 years after her assault, the courthouse dedicated a second plaque. This one is inside, in the main lobby where everyone passes, every day. It lists the names of everyone who was freed after Harlan's conviction. 22 names. 22 lives partially restored. And at the bottom, a quote from Sophia's Harvard speech. Justice doesn't happen automatically. It requires people willing to do the hard work of holding power accountable. Sophia walks past that plaque every morning. Sometimes she stops, reads the names, remembers that foggy morning when everything changed. And then she goes upstairs to her courtroom, puts on her robe, picks up her gavel, and gets to work. Because justice may wear a blindfold, but she's always watching. She's always listening. And when the moment comes, when power abuses someone who can't fight back, when lies are told and systems fail, justice knows exactly when to strike back. This story isn't just about one judge and one corrupt cop. It's about a system that too often protects the powerful and ignores the powerless. Here's what you can do. Speak up when you witness injustice. You don't need to be a judge to demand accountability. File complaints, document incidents, demand transparency. Support reform organizations. Groups like the ACLU, the Innocence Project, and local police accountability boards need resources and volunteers. Vote for accountability. Research judicial candidates, district attorneys, and politicians. Support those who prioritize reform over convenience. Educate yourself. Learn about your rights, your local complaint processes, your state's laws on police misconduct. Knowledge is power. Amplify victims' voices. When people come forward with stories of abuse, believe them. Share their stories. Demand investigation. Demand body camera footage. In any case of alleged misconduct, insist on full, unedited footage. Push for policies that make footage accessible and protect it from tampering. Support wrongly convicted individuals. Many people like Devin Mitchell are still in prison because of corrupt testimony. Advocate for case reviews and exoneration initiatives. Remember, the badge doesn't make anyone above the law. Judge Sophia Brooke couldn't have achieved justice alone. It took FBI agents willing to investigate, attorneys willing to take on difficult cases, a community willing to demand change, and a system, however flawed, that eventually listened. You are part of that system. Your voice matters. Your actions matter. Your willingness to stand up for others matters. Because the next time someone is assaulted on courthouse steps, they might not be a federal judge. They might be your neighbor, your friend, your family member. They might be you. And when that moment comes, the question is simple. Will justice be blind, or will she be watching? The answer depends on all of us. On this ground, justice found her voice.